Hi there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. In this video, I'm putting together my project life spread for the week of August 18th through August 24th, 2025, and I'm working with supplies for my stash. Let's go ahead and dive right in. This is the week of August 18th through 24th, and not a lot happened. This was actually a super quiet week, and I didn't take a ton of photos, so I kind of struggled to find enough to print. It turned out I printed a lot of food. I took a lot of food and drink photos, watching paper people, organizing my crafts, journaling. I took a progress photo of my cross stitch, and then this one was actually a vertical photo. I decided I could print it horizontally to fill one of these 4x6 pockets. So I'm gonna do that. And then I'm gonna probably put maybe, I don't know, I'm gonna put one of them over here, these over here. I'm not sure yet where. And then I'm just arranging these randomly for now. And I might rearrange them as I go. But so for this spread, I'm gonna do kind of a stash busting. I pulled these from one of the recent Stories by the Month kits, and I'm gonna use these for my journaling. I'm not sure yet how I exactly want to arrange things on this page. I'll figure it out, but then I need a title card, and then I need some filler cards. I don't have a ton of stories. I'm gonna do, one of these is gonna be about crafts, and then one of them is going to be about a CLE that I gave, which is called Continuing Legal Education for Lawyers. I'm a lawyer. So I was presenting that. So I'm gonna tell that story. And then I'm gonna do a bullet point list of other micro stories from the week. I'm not sure what else I'm gonna do as far as fillers or other journal cards, but I'm gonna go ahead and check in my stash and figure that out. I'm gonna do voiceover for that, because that way I can kind of speed up the process of flipping through cards and things and talk you through what I end up including. Okay, so the first thing I do is I'm going through cards for my Project Life card organization. And I have a whole nother video sharing how I organize my Project Life cards, but I have two organizer shelves, and my goal is to have my entire stash of Project Life cards fit in those shelves. I am almost there. I do have a few older Becky Higgins kits that don't fit there yet, but I'm trying my best to kind of minimize my stash and use more cards than I bring in so that they can all fit. So what I'm going through now are my cards. These are filler cards, and these are ones that I call specific filler cards. So these are ones that have specific themes that might only fit certain stories, but they don't fit one of my other categories. So it's kind of like my other catch-all category. And because these are specific themes, they are the hardest ones to use. So I like to go through these ones first, because if there is something with a specific theme that actually fits my stories, then I'm gonna pull it out and use it. I really liked that one that said, "Hey you, don't force pieces that don't fit." I really liked that one as a title card for this spread for a few reasons. So first of all, the yellow of that card worked really well with the 3 colored tags that I have as my jumping off point. So I feel like that kind of created my color scheme for this spread. I don't really know what to call that color scheme. I feel like it's almost like a rainbow, and you'll see I add some pink in later, but it's like a muted rainbow. So it goes together really well. And you'll see kind of how I do that, but it's a lot of solid colors as opposed to multicolor things. I also pulled out that Sparks Joy Thank You Next card that is from an older Kelly Perky kit, and I liked that one because it was a good theme that would fit that photo. And like I said, these were my filler cards that don't fit many things, and now I'm going through the 4x6 ones that have the same categories. So it is, general or specific themed cards. And I kind of put that stack aside because I thought maybe I'd want something that had room for journaling. So I'm going through specific story prompt ones to see if any of these fit. So anyways, back what I was saying. So that Kelly Perky card up in the top right corner, I'm going to crop that down and put it on my photo. And that's just a way to embellish my photo, add another card in, and then the blue matched one of the tags. So I felt like it went really well with the color scheme I'm going for. Back to my title card. So that, hey, you don't force pieces that don't fit. That is from an older story kit. I think probably Pieces. I'm not sure though. I think that Pieces was a kit. Or whole, maybe. I'm not sure. But anyways, I really like that one because I feel like the sentiment also fit my week, because this time frame I was just very tired and stressed. I think I was getting sick. And I don't know, just wanting to try to slow down and have a different kind of pace this summer than I have in the past. And I just felt like it was a good sentiment for this week. I also pulled over that floral one that is from Brandy Kincaid. I don't end up using that one. I liked the sentiment. I liked the colors, but I just felt like it was too bright of colors to fit with the color scheme I'm going with. So I do pull it out. I did find this journaling card in one of my 4x6 card stashes, and that was the category for multiple story prompts. And I like to use those when I don't have a lot going on. So this week, like I said, I didn't have a lot of stories. I didn't have a lot of photos. So using some of those filler cards or journal prompt cards where you are prompted to tell specific stories is very helpful, because that will fill up some of those pockets and kind of invite you to include a bit more of the story than you otherwise would have included. I'm now going through my summer themed filler cards. So rather than doing all of the holidays having their own category, I just do seasonal. And I feel like that is easy because there's only 4 seasons. And so I only have 4 categories, and then everything is going to fit that category, or all of the holidays that fall in that category will be in there, plus, specific seasonal things. So now I didn't find any in the summer category, and now I'm going through food. So like I said in the intro, there is a lot of food in this spread. I have my scones and my coffee on the left-hand side. I have my coffee at work on the right-hand side. I have a lunch that I made, and I have a seltzer. So I wanted to kind of focus on that with my filler cards, and I have a lot of those. So I ended up pulling out that one that says "You are what you eat" from Kelly Perky, and I liked it because it had a white background and not a lot of color, and that was a good balance from the photos and the brighter, darker cards. And then that "More Coffee Please," I absolutely love that card, and it just went so well. It's not the exact same yellow as the title card, but because it's on the other side of the spread, I feel like it just works really well, and I really liked the yellow with those 3 tags, so I was super happy with that. And then that Monday through Sunday card that I have there, I think is from Studio Calico, but it also has that same yellow, and it has the same light blue and the same green and the same dark blue. And that happens a lot between Ali Edwards and Studio Calico because they use a lot of the same colors and the same designers. And so those cards coordinate perfectly. That "More Coffee Please" card, I believe, is from Ali Edwards, and I think it's from one of the mini kits or mini releases, not from a story kit, but one that was a foodie theme. So I decided I wanted to do some stamping. I'm pulling over my stamp organization binders, and I do have a video sharing how I do my stamp organization, so I will link that in the description box below if you're interested. It is a bit of an older video, so I am planning on sharing an updated version fairly soon. I have not yet got that one edited, but it will probably be coming up in the next month or so stay tuned for that. So I decided to use this kind of wonky alpha stamp, and I wanted to just stamp a little bit of titles on both of these. So the first one there, I stamped CLE, and I'm going back to it, and I'm going to write CLE Part 2. So I kind of alluded to this in the introduction, but I am an attorney, and I'm giving trainings at work. And so I'm doing a 3-part series, and I gave Part 2 during this week. So I wanted to document that as one of the larger stories for this week. I also decided to do a themed story about crafts because there were a lot of craft related stories going on this week. And so that's what I did on that second card. And then the third card is going to be my bullet point list. If you are new here or new to Project Life, one of the things I like to do in my pocket pages is keep a bullet point listed card where I just bullet point out some micro stories from the week. So they're little tiny details that you would otherwise forget and don't have a photo usually, and just like little details that I want to remember. And that's part of what makes Project Life so special, because you are documenting those little micro stories as opposed to just the big events. In the bottom right corner of the screen, you can see my Take a Note planner. This is what I use to kind of keep track of my stories as I'm living life. I fill this in at least once a week. Sometimes I do a couple of spreads or a couple of days at a time, just to kind of detail the specific stories and the small things about what happened every day. I don't write bigger details on there, just the broad overview, enough to jog my memory, so that when I go back to fill in my Project Life spread, whether it's the next week or the next month or multiple months later, I will have that as a reference to remember what happened. For this card here, I decided I wanted to kind of document one thing that happened per day with stamps. So what I decided to stamp was, on Monday, I stamped productive because I just had a very productive day. Tuesday, CLE, because that's when I gave that CLE. Wednesday, visit. I had a new employee visit the office and I gave her a tour and introduced her to people. So that's what I put for there. Thursday, I did CLEs because I wasn't presenting one, but I was watching a bunch of CLEs from home because I need to get my credits in. Then on Friday, I put Zoom because I hosted the Storyteller Zoom from Allie Edwards. I host one of those per quarter in the Storyteller Classroom. So if you are a subscriber over at Allie Edwards to the Storyteller Kits, you can join us there and we chat for about an hour once every quarter, talking about the current Storyteller Kit, story ideas, craft things, just general things about crafting. So that was really fun. And the replay of that is available in the classroom if you missed it. Saturday, I had a super slow day, which was much needed. So I wrote that in. And then Sunday again was another slow day, but I didn't want to do that again. So I did put baking because I did spend some time Sunday morning baking for the week. I baked some fresh scones, which you can see in that photo on my left-hand side of my page. And I also baked some toasted marshmallow syrup, which I use in my coffees. I make toasted marshmallow lattes every morning, and I do have my scones every morning, so I bake them for the week on Sunday. I do have the recipes for those in some of my vlogs here. I do have that also on my Instagram, so if you are interested in those, you can check that out on my Instagram. They are in my FAQ story highlight. So I went through and did my bullet point list, and for this stamped card here, I'm going to go ahead and add a bit more journaling on there, but I wanted to give my hand a little bit of a break between all of the journaling, so I decided to add some embellishments. Because of the color scheme that I went with for the spread, I thought bringing over some bright word phrase strips that matched this color scheme would be a great way to embellish my photos and use up some of my stash. So what I'm doing is I am stacking 3 word phrase strips on each photo. I don't think I do it on all of the photos, but I do it on most of them, that just kind of fit the sentiment of whatever's going on in the photo. Some of them are general sentiments, some are more specific. And I'm just rotating colors based on what word phrase strips I find that match, that are these a few colors here. So I brought over a few sets from some of the older story kits or stories by the month. I think that all of these are Allie Edwards. Yeah, I think you can see that at the top. Some of them are from more recent kits and some are a little bit older, but I selected them based on the color scheme rather than the theme. And then I'm just reading them to find ones that fit my stories. When using word phrase strips, I always try to find the most specific word phrase strip that will fit my photo, because those are the ones that are harder to use. So for example, if there's one that just says documented, I can use that on any photo. So I'm going to try my best not to use that one unless there's something else that will fit. In contrast, on, for example, the one of my cross stitch in the top, I put one that says hard work. That will not work on most photos, but it will work on that one because it is hard work doing all of that cross stitch. Not really, but a lot of commitment. So that is kind of my approach to word phrase strips, to try to use them, because you can get towards the end of the sheet and you might have some very specific ones that are hard to use. And so my goal is to not be left with just those ones at the end. I'm stacking these on most of my photos. I end up doing it on all of the photos except for 2, the one in the top right that has that Kelly Perky card on it, and the one in the bottom left-hand corner. I decided not to put it on that photo in the bottom left-hand corner just because that photo's pretty busy. I have a photo of my journal, my desk, and there's just a lot kind of going on, and there wasn't really a good place to layer word phrase strips that wouldn't cover part of the photo. I'm working back on this card here, just adding a little bit of journaling to each of these strips, except for the Monday one because the stamping filled up the entire space. And I just wanted to, add a little bit more context to the words that I put on here. I didn't want to repeat the stories from my other cards, so I tried to find ways to expand on it or make it just a little bit different. And I liked that this one kind of had this horizontal writing, so you kind of have to like turn your head or turn the page. I'm not sure if I should have done it maybe facing the other direction because this is on the left-hand side, but whatever. I didn't really think about it at the time, and it makes sense for me. I guess I wanted the stamping to come from the top down. If I went the other direction, we go from the bottom up. Hopefully that makes sense, what I'm saying. So for my journaling this week, I am using a gel pen. This is a Sarasa Clip in 0.5. I really like the Sarasa gel pens. This is not my favorite gel pen, but this is one that I use pretty regularly. I like this one the most on a variety of surfaces. I like the Sarasa Mark On better on the Tomo River paper in my Hobonichi Cousin and my Taken Out, but when I'm using it on cardstock, this one sometimes is a little bit better. It's just a preference for the day. I do have my favorite pens linked in the description box below if you're interested in picking any of them up. If you've watched some of my recent Project Life videos, you know that I've been getting into fountain pens, and I've been using those sometimes in my spreads, but other times I just want a quick, easy gel pen, which is just a nice way to kind of fill in my journaling and not have to worry about fountain pens matching the spread or working with the cardstock. So that's just an easier way to kind of do this. And I also felt like because this spread is so colorful, I did not need to bring in some colorful ink. That would have been a bit much. For my title card, I added a label sticker on here, and then I'm just using my rolling date stamp to add the dates. I tend to do that on pretty much every spread. I also wanted to point out that someone had made a comment to me about, the week number. And I do give these a week number just based on how many spreads I've done, but I'm not following a strict calendar of this is, week 1, week 2, the same as everybody else. So my week numbers might be off from yours. And that's partially just because I mix up my spreads. Sometimes I have a 4-day week in here. It doesn't really matter that much to me. And I don't put the week numbers on my actual spread. Instead, I'm just focused on what the date range is. So I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to go ahead and slip everything into the pockets. As I'm doing this, I'm kind of doing a final audit of the spread to make sure I like how everything lays out. For these the tag pieces, I could have added some twine or thread or something to them, but I decided to just treat them like cards. Here's a look at that completed spread. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Bye.